All right, so still don't have a quality mic, as you can probably tell, but I'll do my best with what I've got. So I've been playing the 1v1 Breya list for a while because I really enjoy the challenge of working a format. 2 weekends ago, I was able to play in the weekend tournament, and this weekend I was not able to do so, so I don't have meaningful feedback from that. In the first one, I learned quite a bit that I had kind of forgotten, having not played for a while, and I made adjustments. In the second, and this is the second week, so hopefully next week I'll get an opportunity to play in the challenge and then uh, get a better sense of where I need to go from here. But meanwhile, there's been a number of changes that I think have improved the deck, certainly in the general sense against the field. I've been testing quite a bit, and I also have a great game for you that's going to come up at the end of this. But so talk about some of the changes real quick. The deck's a lot more planeswalker heavy, but not just completely willy-nilly. The fact is that the deck also has a lot more early defenses against Rush, because it has both Fire Covenant and Toxic Deluge. And in addition to those, it has Bitter Blossom and Monastery Mentor, which do a very good job of cluttering the board up. They also, incidentally, make the Skull Clamp an absolutely insane card to go get. Between those two and Doretti, you can do amazing things, and of course, Breya herself. Meanwhile, I cut back on some of the cool speed tricks that I had with City of Traders, although it was really sweet with the Is It Boilerworks effects, and it was a lot of fun to take advantage of. At the end of the day, there's a better card, I think, for that slot, and that card is, especially when you're cluttering up the board, and that's this one here, Throne of the High City. So, Throne of the High City is a land that you can sacrifice to become the monarch as an instant. So if you do use it on your opponent's turn, then you will not get to draw. You draw from the monarch at the end of your turn. So there is some incentive to use it on your turn, but obviously in a situation where you need to play it safe, you've got the option to wait and do it when you have a clear opportunity. Otherwise, it's best to use it on your turn. And the reason that the monarch is so good, and I have that card as well as Palace Jailer, is that, again, this deck's very, very good at cluttering the board and kind of keeping people off your back. And because it does that so well, also Grim Lavamancer helps as well as Vedalken Shackles with that sort of thing. And because it does it so well, um, you can frequently get install outs against even aggressive decks. But more importantly, against control decks, it's quite often where you're jockeying for position with mana and cards, and the battle really isn't about the board at all. Neither of you may have anything in play, and yet there's a tense battle in which you're trying to, as far as creatures goes, in which you're trying to deploy, signets and stuff like that, trying to develop your mana and maybe look for a window to get that planeswalker down. So being able to get the monarch in effect, it's for all intents and purposes uncounterable. It's a Jambe Tome your opponent cannot counter and cannot interact with most times if they're playing control, which means you just draw two cards for the rest of the game and the opponent has nothing to say about it. And that's incredibly powerful. Um, so I will run through two games, one where my opponent is playing control, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And in the second game that I run through, I my opponent is playing aggro, and you'll see it comes down to my opponent makes a misplay, but it's an amazing game anyway, and I think you'll enjoy it. I think uh, as far as the planeswalkers I put in here, Kaya and Ajani both add a smidgen of additional life gain, although Kaya also uh, requires you to use life for her first ability. But um, it does add a smidge of extra life gain, which is helpful when you're running, Toxic Deluge, Painful Truths, Fire Covenant, Dark Confidant, Night's Whisper, Bitter Blossom, all in the same deck. So some life gain is welcome. But more importantly, Kaya is a second Disrupting Scepter. It goes great with the Sword of Feast and Famine for keeping your opponent locked out. It's a second Jam Day Tome, often enough. It has some synergy with Breya, but also Palace Jailer, Trinket Mage, Stoneforge Mystic, Snapcaster, and it also can kill tokens, which is occasionally useful. just by exiling them. And then as far as a Johnny goes, a Johnny is just an extra way to, when you can't win or block your opponent, it's a second way to potentially shut off their mana permanently, for the same reasons that the deck I was saying earlier is good at cluttering the board. A Johnny, hiding behind an Johnny can get you there, which is pretty nice. But also it can kill planeswalkers, depending on which one. You know, like a Jace that didn't pick up, for example, um, and occasionally a creature, or it can pin down artifact mana while you are orbing the opponent. And so all those are pretty good. Of the planeswalkers that have been added, I'd say it's the weakest one, but still solid. And then Nahiri is the other one that's really, really good. So what I've done is I put land tax back in the deck, but especially with Throne of the High City lands and all the pickup lands, lands I can stack, lands I can pick up, days that I can use, it's real easy to get a tax off and draw, pick up some extra islands. So it's basically just a second tithe because there's no scroll rack to combo with it. But what you can do is you can combo it with Jace. Of course, if you have Jace, you're probably winning anyway. But you can also combo it with Nahiri's ability to discard those lands and turn them into real spells, hopefully. And you can do it with Baby Jace over here, as well as with Dak Faden. So most of the planeswalkers will turn those cards into fuel, and having lots of islands in a deck with Vedokin Shackles and um, in a control deck in general is just good. So for all those reasons, I think Tax makes the cut, but Scroll Rack, which does nothing on its own, which I really like and would probably make it my 100th card if I could. It just doesn't quite make the cut though. I At least not right now. Basically, a Johnny Vengeance is the Scroll Rack, and we'll see how that goes. Nahiri's function replaces it, and um, and so I think it's not going to matter. All right, so I want to get on to the games. Also, well, the other thing is that Throne of the High City. So the reason Skorak was so important, besides comboing with land tax, is that it's a card that allows you to take advantage of a bad situation, which is the one where you're mana flooded. So the hope here is that Throne of the High City, which you can fetch with Expedition Map or Wayfarer, and you can of course fetch map with Trinket Mage and in other ways as well. The hope is that that card will substitute as another way to take advantage of mana flood, along with, of course, like I said, Nahiri and Kaya's ability to draw cards. So we'll see how it plays out. But those are all the changes. There's quite a few, lots to talk about. The other thing about Nahiri, though, is that this deck actually, I pulled a Disenchant, I pulled a Braid, and I put Nahiri in the slot. Um, so it serves as both a scroll rack and an Braid with one card, which is exactly why I was able to then free up the slot. That's how I got the second slot for a Johnny. So a Johnny can do the 3 damage that a Braid can do. Nahiri can do what artifact and enchantment control and also card selection. So, all right, let's take a look at some games, and we'll see. Also, the other thing with Planeswalkers that I try to, I try to focus on is that I want my splash color cards. Those are all white, black, and white, red. So I want them to require only 1 mana of non-blue. So a card in this deck, if it costs like double white or double black or double red, um, amongst the 3 of those, the easiest one to play is the double white card because of Tithe, and the next easiest would be double black, and then double red's the worst. So there are cards that I've been really wanting to play, like Chandra and Fiery Confluence, and I just can't quite get myself to put them in the deck because I think that double red is a bridge too far. But it could change. It may not be my opinion, forever. Anyway, so I want to run through these 2 games here. So the first one here is against Team. Pardon me. I think that was the game. It was Team or Federker. I was actually playing both. I think it was actually Federker. So this person went AFK for a bit, so I started a new game. Then that person went AFK, and the other one came back. So I started finishing the original game, this game against Federker. And then the second person came back. So I ended up having to play 2 games at once. It was bake in my noodles. So I made a few misplays, and I'll point them out. Or at least one. It actually ended up being a pretty painful misplay. Alright, so here my opponent's playing Keranos. So this is the other thing about having Nigiri in the deck means if the Keranos hits the board, which, you know, the goal is to keep it from happening, but if it does, there's at least a card in here that can exile it and get it off the table, which is pretty nice. So the first couple of turns, I'm going to take a risk here and slam that Diamond Signet. I really need the black, and I lucked out and hit. For these first couple of turns, we're just jockeying for position. Of course, I'm paying careful attention to my opponent's mana, hoping he doesn't draw Ancient Tomb or something. So I get a tax down and a Signet, which, you know, the tax had drawn me 2 lands right there. My opponent bounces it, so it actually already garnered me a card in the bounce spell that my opponent played. I figure that means he's going to counter it on the way down, so nice little top deck here of Inquisition means I get to find out if that is indeed the plan. Turns out it is with the Dismiss, so he gets his card back, but I do get to develop some more with the Felwar and Lanzac. Now my opponent, I expect to play his commander, which is going to be a problem for me, but I didn't really have much else. I mean, I felt like I needed to develop, and there wasn't a lot of options for me. But fortunately, he's playing it, I don't know, safe, conservatively. Played a Mind Stone instead and sitting on the counter. So I get to tax and find myself an Underground, which is really nice. So and I can lead off with Night's Whisper here. And because I have Impulse in my hand and a Spell Snare, my opponent's playing fairly conservatively. I'm going to chill out because if he goes for his commander now, there's always a chance I get Impulse into his counter. If he doesn't, well, I'm still going to Impulse, and that's exactly what I'm digging for. I don't find a counter. I do see Throne on High City, and I almost took it because of how good it is here, but I decided I needed the Merchant Scroll because I've got to get an actual counter for his commander before he gets to the point where he's ready to play it. So I fetch a counterspell and pass. I'd like to do something else here, but I'm 1 mana short from playing Painful Truth, Spell Snare, and Counterspell. My opponent plays a Confluence, and I have to let it go because Confluence isn't as dangerous as his commander. So he draws 3 cards, but I can make up for that with Painful Truth later. He goes for a Chrome Mox and then plays that man's Legacy, shuffling away something, and he's going to draw 2 cards on my turn. It's a shame I didn't get to use more mana that turn, but he's up to 6 cards in hand. I draw and I check out my board situation. I realize I have enough mana to do what I want. I play Dark Confidant, Painful Truths, and I'm still sitting on Counterspell Snare. My opponent burns 2 counterspells, one of which is a Memory Lapse, and I'm really happy to see that. I don't mind drawing Painful Truths next turn and using it. That's fine with me. So I assume this is where he believes he's got a clear path, so he goes for Keranos, which I countered, and he's got the counter. He knew I had the counter. He's got a Snapcaster Mage. He's going to snap Spell Snare, so I go ahead and snare his Mage so he can't snare my counter, and draw the Painful Truths. Now, I'm looking at his mana situation, and I realize I can kind of hurt his mana base a little bit. So I go ahead and Tezzeret into Orb here, because I don't really have another way to get, I don't have really a good way to prevent him from playing his commander if I don't make this play now. So I don't really like fetching up an Orb when my opponent has 2 artifact mana in play, but since I have like multiple cards in my hand, the Planeswalkers who can eventually deal with the artifact mana, then I should be alright. Or at least I have a better shot this way. Plus, I've got a nice play next turn with Painful Truce if I want it. I do not truce here because it would be insane to draw 3 cards and basically triple Stone Ring myself. That would be an absolutely horrible decision. A desperation play, and like if my opponent had a lethal attack next turn and I needed a Swords to Plowshares or something. But otherwise, that would be just crazy. So I don't make that play. My opponent does nothing, I do nothing, all as exactly what I want. Alright, so Magic Online seems to be lagging a little. I'm going to let it play, though. I don't want to skip it ahead. I'm hoping that that reduces the chances that it actually bugs out on us. I haven't run through this game yet, so we'll see. I have land tax on a permanent ignore. Wonderful top deck there. Pickup land is just ideal in this situation. Certainly I prefer a counterspell, but I'm quite happy with that as far as development goes. So I'm going to try to find a counter and go for Painful Truce, I believe. But maybe not. Let's see what's happening here. I remember this was a turn where I was kind of back and forth on exactly how I wanted to run the turn. So basically what it ends up being is that if I want to both play Nahiri and a Johnny, which is kind of what I want to do now, I'm going to have to fetch a Mox Opal. I suppose I could fetch a Mox Diamond with the land that I picked up, but if I can fetch the Opal now and then play the land, and if I happen to draw a land next turn off of like Painful Truce or whatever, then I can fetch a Diamond. So I would rather um, I'd rather get Opal and risk my opponent. Like, I have so many artifacts, they would have to clear them in order for that Opal to stop working, so it should be okay. To play a Johnny, and this was foolish, I activated. Now, what I should have done, and then I played Nahiri, so what I should have done was waited on activating the Johnny. I was worried that if my opponent had a Lightning Bolt, and I didn't activate it right away, then it would just get bolted down. But I probably should have taken the risk, because I'm sure that he would have bolted Tezzeret if he had it. So that was an error, and it allows my opponent to not use the artifact mana that I selected in order to play his Condescend. So um, I should have stopped. I should have had his Mind Stone or Chrome Mox pin either way. Um, and I don't think I think we're gonna bug out here because I don't think I played Nahiri in that second play. I think it was my commander lightly. Because there's no way I would have been able to play Nahiri here. Yeah. So it seems like it's gonna keep playing, but anyway, that's a bug. I played a Johnny and then my commander. That was the thing he countered, not Nahiri. Obviously, because I have Nahiri down now. And in fact, I don't think I would have drawn a Painful Thoughtseize and not used it. So I have the distinct feeling the game is just gone buggy. Yeah, there it goes. Illegal target, no source chosen. Well, that's a very disappointing thing, but I'll sum it up for you. Basically, I ended up finding the throne. I found it right here. And so my opponent is in a spot now because I have Nahiri here in the deck. He can't actually play his commander and do much with it because it exiles. So I could just make it go away immediately. And for that reason, it's quite possible I could have saved it. But at any rate, I end up playing the throne. My opponent's Snapcaster is gone, and so with that fear out of the way, I go ahead and play the throne and use it on my turn immediately. And I just start drawing 2 cards per turn. And then we end up playing a long game where I don't draw much of anything. My opponent is able to get a Sphinx's um, Bone Wand, the 7 drop down, because on the turn where I don't draw a counter and I use the throne, my opponent Vandal Blasts me. So I have to rebuild. He gets his Sphinx's Bone Wand down. I guess I did get the Thoughtseize because I actually Thoughtseized and I saw that he had almost nothing useful in his hand. But he quickly manages to top deck, and using the wand, he's able to kill most of my planeswalkers. He kills Tezzeret, he kills a Johnny before it can ultimate, and then uh, eventually I think he clears Nahiri out. But he gets in a situation where I'm drawing 2 cards per turn, and eventually I'm able to mystical and go get mystical teachings and go get Kolaghan's command. And I Kolaghan's command his wand, as well as the card he draws for the turn, which leaves him with no cards in hand. And he uses that turn to go for his commander, and I hard cast Force of Will and stop it. And I have like 1 token in play from Breya at that point, and I end up getting a sort of Feast of Famine on equipped on, and so my opponent he can never do anything with counter spells, counter magic. I'm drawing 2 cards per turn, and he's locked out to just 1 card, whatever card he draws off the top, and at that point he screws. All right, so anyway, sorry that didn't. I would have liked for that to have been more, to see it from start to finish, but I think this game here is better anyway, so that was just a nice game where the throne came into play. So here I am playing against Thalia. He's went first. He's got Weathered Wayfarer. very, very bad. Thalia winning the die roll is always just uh, a bad time. It's not fun. So anyway, I duress my opponent, and I see Smuggler's Copter, a Ganjo Castle, Swiftfoot Boots, and a Benzo, and a Plains. I take the Smuggler's Copter. Opponent plays Thalia, I play Trinity Tax. He's beating down, so I can cross off his Plains now. And Bleachers, we play Swiftfoot Boots, yeah, so cross that off. I do get to tax here, which is very, very nice, especially against Thalia. I need every land drop I can possibly hit. Even though I have to be cautious with the Weathered Wayfarer over there, not to set him up where I'm getting him something he really wants. Okay, and the Fenza comes down. At this point, my opponent has three unknowns in his hand. Here I play Sword and pick up a land. Because I screwed up last turn, I was thinking that I could play my commander and not realize that I was actually short. As it turns out, it's not the worst case. It's not the worst situation possible, but it was pretty bad. I took damage right there for no reason other than just failure to do math properly. Alright, so on his turn, because I have to play a land in order to use Breya's ability, I do play it, but I kill his Wayfarer right away. And I feel some regret. Recast Intrepid Hero, Lightning Grieves it, kills the Breya, moves back to his Stallion, smashes. Down to 14, and all I have is a very clunky hand. I think about countering this White Knight, this Knight of White Orchid. I don't want my opponent to get more mana, but at this point, I can't afford. Like, I really like to counter it, but I don't think I can afford to do it, so I just let it go. And because I'm in such a rough spot, I'm going to go ahead and Cryptic. And I make a bit of an error here, I think. So what I should have done was Cryptic and bounce maybe his artifact or something, but I bounced his commander. I didn't realize that he hadn't. I thought he had played a land already. Because of the knight putting a land into play, my brain said, oh, he's already hit a land drop. So I bounced Thalia and really paid for it, and he replays it. I could have drawn an additional card or bounced Lightning Reeds or something. So that was just very poor play there. Set me back even further. I do have to play Breya here because if I don't, I'm just dead. But with Intrepid Hero tapped, it doesn't die right away, so this is going to save me a little bit of damage. So my opponent, of course, kills Breya. Pre-combat, I'm going to sack Breya and Thopter to kill Adafenza. I'd like to kill Thalia, but of course it'll just be replayed as the commander, so now I have to eat some damage. But that allows me to get the sword on the Thopter, and I really am hoping this connects. It does. So important. So I get to float a bunch of mana, resolve that, get the card out of my opponent's hand. Ghost Quarter, that's wonderful to see, considering I'm holding Is It Boiler Works. And then Mystical Teachings. Also, I have no islands in my deck, so my opponent maybe doesn't realize that. I go get K-Command, and I Lightning Greaves and take the other card out of his... Oh, sorry, I kill his Knight of White Orchid. And then I cast Skull Clamp because I might as well. I don't equip it because Intrepid Hero will just kill my guy. Opponent plays Tectonic Edge and kills my Boiler Works, which is a real kick in the teeth at this point in the game. I go ahead and swing in, but I do get to float a ton of mana, and I connect again. Take the last card out of my opponent's hand, which happens to be a counterspell, so this was nice. And then I go ahead and Mystical Teachings. So I've almost got both sets of protection for that Intrepid Hero off the board. And I fetch its Snapcaster Mage, a trick that is pretty cool, actually, if you think about it. Because in this specific case, it allows me to cast the Snapcaster for K-Command and trade off with the Intrepid Hero. I don't know why he attacked with the hero, but I'm really glad he did. I go to 1 from first strike, but after combat, I can destroy the Swiftfoot Boots and return Snapcaster to my hand. My opponent's draw was a Mishra's Factory, apparently, so that's fine. And now the Intrepid Hero is finally off the board. I draw a Wasteland for the turn. I get to play Breya, attack, untap all of my mana, waste his Mishra's Factory or a Ganjo Castle as I choose. Probably the Factory, although there's something to be said for taking the castle out because it gives my opponent some options. and the factory may not come into play, but I'd hate to lose to like a Wrath of God effect. So I think I'd kill the factory. But at any rate, at that point in the game, I win, right? I've got Forbid with tons of extra cards I can throw away, as well as a Snapcaster Cryptic. Um, and at one life, I stabilize and my opponent concedes. And I thought that was a great game. Really taking advantage of um, taking advantage of the fact that Mystical Teaching says you can go get something with Flash. Ended up being super useful there, and yeah, I felt good about that one. So hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you enjoyed watching a couple of games there. I can run through maybe a few more. Um, there was a game recently, maybe it was like a while back, but I did have a game that I also wanted to show you and tried to make a video for, and the video didn't turn out for me. So I'm going to look and see if it was this one against the Zolo project. Now this, if it was that one or I think that was the one. So if it was, well, we'll see. I probably should have prepared this before the video, I suppose. That would have been a lot smarter. Anyway, let's see what we've got here. All right, so this was with the older version. It did not have no, that's not the one I'm looking for. Well, I'll tell you what. I think what I'll end up doing is I'll find that video and I'll make a second video. So sorry for all that. Anyway, um, yeah, the deck's playing out pretty well. Hopefully you did enjoy this shorter one, a lot more talking, but with almost, what, 10 plus cards changed, I figured I should try to at least explain what the thinking was behind all that and do my best to entertain you as well. So thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. And if anyone has any suggestions, as always, please throw those in the comments.